Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest on the Northern Ireland Protocol moves as Brexit hardman Steve Baker seems to apologise for the behaviour of himself and the UK government in general towards Ireland regarding Brexit, and everyone's wondering, what's he up to then? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I've been fixated on the Liz Truss clown show for the past couple of weeks, and it's not that there's no news around. Just on what's happened this morning, I was catching up, right, I could do this video. I've got enough for the rest of the week. If there were no news this week, and there's going to be lots, I've got enough material for the whole week. But do you know what? Other things are still happening. Brexit's still happening. There's actually been quite a few Brexit talking points. So we're going to have a few Brexit breaks this week. And the thing is, the government have announced the expected public cuts. The Truss's government's rapidly collapsing as herself and Treasury ministers try and blame each other. They're talking about now just suspending all laws for businesses under a certain size. Oh, you know how everyone else has to follow the rules? Not you guys. That's got to be discussed at some point. But we'll just have to wait. We'll wait for tomorrow, and I'll catch up with the worst of it tomorrow and go from there. But Brexit, and the first of the Brexit talking points that I've been sitting on for a little bit as well, it's about the Northern Ireland Protocol. There's been some encouraging signs. And the most notable event to catch people's eye, although hardly the most impactful, is that of Steve Baker, former chair of the ERG, and a big driving force behind Brexit. Brexit was, of course, the deeds of many people. But there were a very, very small number of people who were individually so massively influential that without it, it wouldn't have happened. Remember, the vote was so marginal. For example, without the bluster of Boris Johnson, it's hard to say how it would have got over the line. Without the campaigning skills of Nigel Farage, same thing. The referendum would have just gone the other way without either of those people, I think. But without Steve Baker, there never would have been a referendum. He's the one who cornered David Cameron into making a manifesto promise to hold a referendum in the first place. So Steve Baker, in my view, is one of the top 5 people responsible for Brexit. And he pushed for a hard no-deal Brexit. As you know, people point out all the time, if you think Brexit's going badly now, a no-deal Brexit would have been way worse. This is what Baker wanted, and as far as can be told, still wants. So you can colour me surprised to hear him apologise to Ireland and the EU for the behaviour of himself and some of his Brexit colleagues over the past 6 years. If a different Tory Brexiteer said it, we might take it as an olive branch. Like if Liz Truss said it, we might conclude, look, she realises she's got enough troubles without a trade war with the EU and so wants to push for a genuine negotiated settlement. But Steve Baker? It is telling that it's not just my reaction, it's the reaction of lots of other political observers on the reports that Steve Baker's apologised to Ireland and the EU. Everyone's basically gone, what's he up to then? What's his game? He has said, and I quote, "I and others did not always behave in a way that encouraged Ireland and the EU to trust us to accept that they have legitimate interests." Now, it's not very detailed. I didn't see in the report if he said what legitimate interests he was now respecting. He didn't appear to say what behaviour was unbecoming. So it's a bit of a vague apology. You know, the sort of apology you often get from a child who's made to say sorry, but they're not really sure why. And, you know, I'll say sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologise. Well, what are you sorry for? Oh, no one told me that bit. And it's not like this is the only development. Last week, it was announced that Liz Truss would personally attend the first meeting of a new group set up by President Macron as France takes its turn as EU president. It's the same Macron brainchild that Boris Johnson expressed an interest in while he was still Prime Minister. A sort of like second division EU group that brings together countries with certain common interests, but who don't actually want to be a full part of the EU itself. In fact, many Brexiteers have seized on the idea as something they could get on board with. Some, I'm sure, would be genuinely happy. Others may just see it as a convenient lifeboat to escape their Brexit Titanic journey. But either way, having the Prime Minister personally attend would be a good sign, a real move towards defrosting relationships. It would also give Brexit a nice little pressure vent. So instead of it being about, oh, we've got to protect the Brexit, or no, we need to get back into the EU with all haste, this could be a little, well, let's try this direction. A move towards closer alignment with the EU, which is both a political and economic necessity, without dealing with the in or out EU baggage. There's also to be a meeting regarding the Northern Ireland Protocol this week. Talks about, there haven't been talks on the Northern Ireland Protocol for like half a year. More than half a year now, I think. Interestingly, James Cleverly is the one who announced that he has spoken to Maroš Šefčovič, the EU Commission Deputy President who oversees talks on the part of Brussels. That would indicate that Cleverly is going to be taking charge for Westminster. Oh dear. I did wonder which minister would be given the task, because although Truss as Foreign Secretary was the last minister to be in charge, it wasn't a given that the new Foreign Secretary would retain the brief, because before Truss it was David Frost, who was just a Brexit minister, and before Frost it was Michael Gove, who was like the cabinet secretary at the time, I think. So it's hopped about, this job, it's hopped about. But as far as can be told, the recent language has all been very amicable. Now, don't get me wrong, I've no faith it'll continue. The Northern Ireland Protocol Bill is still passing through Parliament, and it seems to be accelerating. Neither side really knows what's going on until that process ends, either with it being passed into law or being blocked altogether by the House of Lords. We may know more before the year is out, because it does sound like Liz Truss is trying to get those stages completed as soon as possible. But until then, it's hard to imagine any real breakthrough being made. The situation still remains that the Tories claim they cannot countenance internal trade borders, even though their investment zones idea means just that, and the EU need to protect their single market borders. Now, those two positions are fundamentally at odds. Steve Baker's the sort of guy who would think the obvious solution is for Ireland to just tell the EU to do one and reform with the UK again. Not entirely sure this is a credible plan. It's also the case that at no point has any Brexit minister ever come up with a credible plan to replace the protocol with something that would do the same thing for the EU, meets international trading rules and standards, but also get rid of these trade borders. So I suspect, despite the kind words right now, we'll be back to the UK demanding a unicorn, the EU explaining that unicorns don't exist, the UK proclaiming the EU to be just being difficult, and the EU saying, look, we ain't got an actual unicorn. How about we put a cornetto on this horse's head for you? But I still don't know why Steve Baker is engaging in this latest show of humility. What's it for? Can't be for the purposes. It can't be for personal purposes. People are saying, well, he's looking a bit dodgy to retain his seat at the next election. It's certainly true that he is very much on for losing his seat to Labour at the next election. But I can't imagine his Northern Ireland Protocol views have much effect on that. Most voters in Britain don't really know what all the fuss is about with the protocol anyway. They're bemused, if anything. They're more concerned with his moves to reinstate fracking, and he's still publicly in favour of that. I can well believe that Liz Truss wants to calm things down in Northern Ireland. Stormont still doesn't have an executive. She is well aware that the protocol row is basically confected to distract from the real Brexit issues. I can totally get that Truss wants to sideline tussles over the protocol talks because she's got bigger fish to fry. What I don't get is why Steve Baker's going along with it. What has Truss promised him? That's what I'm thinking. What has Truss promised him? That when the protocol bill passes, she'll make a show of engaging with the EU, then trigger the dissolution of protocol checks when she claims they haven't reciprocated? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that Baker is of the view that the end game is near and he just has to play the part of the willing diplomat for a few more months. Is this cynical of me? We shall see. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.